Welcome back to another episode of Don't Waste the Chaos. I took a look at my top most listened to episodes in 2025, and what I saw was this one that was called Top HR Trends for 2025. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's really cool, but was I accurate? I love that people listen to that maybe the most. It was in my top 3 episodes. I love that you all tuned in for that. I love that I've been doing this for over 20 years, and so I'm a good person, a good voice to listen to. But did I actually prove it? I want to talk about credibility. So we are going to take a look at my 2025 projections and did they have any credibility? And then we're going to get into 2026 because why wouldn't we? So are we right? Were we wrong? What does it look like? And I want to start out with some receipts. So let's say I'm opening up that January 2025 episode that came out for the top trends. I don't want to be the hot take HR girl, even though I do have some hot takes. I want to be the show your work kind of HR girl. And so I'm going to grade my 2025 predictions and then build my 2026 playbook from what actually happened. And so here's how I'm scoring myself. If I was right in my projection, that means the trend clearly accelerated and had measurable adoption and made an impact. If I was half right, the trend was real, but the direction changed or the pace changed. And if I was wrong, that means that trend did not materially move or got replaced by something bigger. And I know that my audience is mixed. I've got HR folks that listen to this. I've got business owners that listen to this. I've got girlfriends or women that I'd love to be girlfriends with that are listening to this. And so I'm going to translate this into general business actions and not just solely focus on HR, even though that's it. To me, HR is the foundation of any business. So did it age well? Did my 2025 scorecard, my top trends, did it age well? So I'm going to talk through what I predicted, what actually happened. I'm going to score it, and then I'm going to give the 2026 implication and give you an action of what I think that you need to be doing. So the number one trend that I identified in 2025 was AI and the automation in HR. Here's what I said. AI in cradle to grave HR, which means recruitment to termination. We were going to see AI adoption in recruiting, performance, learning and development, all of that. And so what did 2025 actually show? AI adoption in HR jumped meaningfully, and the gap between leadership use versus employee readiness became very obvious. So I looked at a report on SHRM. This stat showed that organizations leveraging AI in HR rose. So 43% were using AI in their HR tasks. So the score is, I was right. AI was going to trend in HR. How could it not? It trended everywhere. Here's the implication for 2026. Shifting from trying tools to actually making sure they work for you. So looking at AI governance, looking at auditability, looking at bias and selection risk, that's how I would be using AI in 2026. So the practical move would be this: build a 1-page AI use policy for your HR team. What's allowed, what's banned, and then human reference or review checkpoints on how you're going to use it. So I don't recommend buying any tools without starting with that. And so whether you're talking about HR tech, which I've got partners in that area, or you're talking about your benefits brokerage, whatever it is, I never say just give this new toy a run and let's see how it goes. We don't want to start with the features. We want to start with your risk and your workflow. That's how I would talk about anything that you're partnering with. AI is no different. The second trend that I talked about was employee well-being and mental health. And here's what I said. Well-being becomes a real program like EAP, policies around flexibility, policies around burnout prevention. And here's what 2025 showed. Burnout and distributed work complexity became the largest leadership capability issue. And that was based on what I read in the Washington Post. It wasn't just a perk issue any longer. We're not just talking about employee benefits as something fun. So I would score me correct on this. And here's the 2026 implication. Mental health benefits won't save you if your workload design is broken. So the practical move that you can make is to take capacity and boundaries to manage your one-on-ones. So ask 2 questions every month, what's your capacity looking like? And then what boundaries do you need to set around your capacity? The third trend I identified was around diversity, equity, and inclusion and where it really moved, which is into risk and neuro-inclusion areas. Here's what I said. DEI remains central, but it gets woven in. Instead of it being this standalone department, those all got, I shouldn't say all, the majority got shut down. The funding looked different, but really it moved into neurodivergence becoming a bigger focus. That's what I thought was going to show when it came to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging programs. So what actually showed in 2025, here's what I saw. Legal and regulatory pressure intensified around this area. Corporate DEI, of course, was being scrutinized in big new ways. So the workplace design and practices increasingly discussed DEIB through a neuro-inclusive lens. So I would say I was half right on this. The trend stayed hot, but the how shifted. It shifted more into compliance, litigation risk, and redesign, not the big programs, which is essentially what I was saying. But, I'm being honest in my scoring. And so now we're really focusing more on that compliance and litigation risk. So for the 2026 implication on this, DEI really becomes precision work, defensible practices, measurable outcomes, and accommodations fluency when it comes to HR and your leadership team. So what's one practical move that you could take? I would run a DEI risk check on hiring, promotion, mentorship, maybe even employee recognition groups and things like that. Run that through your council or through your HR department. Okay, the fourth trend that I identified 2025 was going to be hot was upskilling or reskilling. And here's what I said about it. Continuous learning becomes necessary due to tech change. So what actually happened in 2025? Skills-based development stayed very urgent, especially with AI, but many organizations still struggled to fund and execute all learning and development programs consistently. So some of them use like LinkedIn Learning Centers for career development as a strategy. Some use secondary summaries like AI and things like that. So the score was right on this. Yes, I do. Upskilling and reskilling was still big, but it was uneven execution. I really thought I'd see more of a systematic approach, and we really didn't. So the 2026 implication is moving from learning budgets, which is really the more formal way to look at it, to skills-based talent systems. Like let's think about inside of hiring, inside of determining internal mobility, determining pay. So the practical move you could make for this in 2026 is choosing 5 critical skills for your 2026 tied to your business goals. What are your business goals for 2026? And then what are 5 critical skills that will help get those done? And then take those critical skills and map them into roles, into skills, into performance review process, performance management, into your learning. That's what I would do when I'm looking at this. Fifth trend that I had identified was hybrid and flexible work models. We were going to have to get to these. What I said was hybrid was not going away. What 2025 showed was hybrid really stabilized, but with stronger in-office mandates in many organizations, still flexibility remaining a big talent lever. I saw some Cisco data that said more in-office mandates and shrinking hybrid arrangements were happening. Current reporting continues to frame hybrid as the new normal in many markets. I saw that in the Times. So I would say my score on this is a half right. It's not fully remote, but flexibility still matters. And the 2026 implication to this is the battleground is manager effectiveness and coordination, not really around location ideology. It's not really about that. We have to focus on our manager effectiveness and the coordination of efforts. So the practical move you could make in 2026 is to define your hybrid rules of the road. So response times, meeting norms, documentation, things like that. If you're continuing to walk down this path, which I would still argue that you need to. Okay, trend number 6, I identified was around people analytics. Here's what I said. HR must get more data driven. I was projecting that we would, because I just saw the data is available. HR people cannot be office managers any longer. 2025 showed this. We have serious attention to HR effectiveness benchmarks. So, and there's pressure to prove an ROI. I saw this on a McKinsey and Company report, but just in general, this is what I want to see out of HR. I'd score me correct on this. This is data that I'm seeing come out more and more often. So here's the 2026 implication. You need to shift from dashboards to decision systems. We don't just want dashboards. We want the data to tell the story and then act on the story. We need to be, from an HR perspective, predicting churn. We need to be able to predict quality of hire. We need to be able to predict internal mobility velocity, things like that. So a practical move that you could make in your business, track 6 metrics only. And I mean, own them. Understand where the data comes from, understand what the story is telling, and understand what your action items are to make an impact on this. Here's what I would recommend: turnover, and then regrettable loss, time to fill, internal fill rate, engagement pulses, manager effectiveness. These are all things that I would be looking at. Okay, a couple more trends I had identified. Trend number 7 was around leadership development making a comeback. I had said learning and development was going to get big. Specifically, I was saying leadership development when I got down into it. So here's what I actually said. Leadership development returns because we cut it too hard. When we were cutting budgets back in COVID days, we cut our learning and development budget, and we said our leaders just need to be leading. They're already overtasked. We weren't training them anymore. So here's what 2025 showed. Distributed work and burnout exposed major leadership gaps. Managing complexity is the new differentiator. That's what I read in the Washington Post. So I would say the score of my prediction is right on this. The 2026 implication is we need to prioritize the frontline manager over fancy executive programs. So the practical move that you can make make a 12-month calendar and look at your manager essentials that they need to be coached or trained on. And I would say this is going to be around conflict. This is going to be around how to coach their people, capacity planning, how to give feedback, just some practical things that they need to be trained on. And then either determine somebody externally like me who can come in and train your people and hold them accountable, or add in your LinkedIn or your school, SKOOL, or whatever that is. I'm not promoting either of those. I don't have codes for either of those. I'm just saying, like, you can pick YouTube videos, you could prescribe a podcast, like there's a button, you could use your learning management system inside of your HR payroll technology, but we need practical manager essentials training. Do it once a month. Okay, another trend that I saw was going to be around pay transparency. Here's what I said. We're going to keep moving, even if it's uneven, as far as pay transparency. I've done another episode on pay transparency if you want to go back and listen to it. But here's what 2025 showed. More states adopted or expanded their requirements, and employers had to operationalize ranges, posting ranges in their job postings, doing audits around this area. So I would say, yes, based on the National Law Review, yes, the score was right. I did see that coming. The 2026 implication: transparency forces clean job architectures and compensation bands and exposes compression really, really fast. So the practical move that you need to make for 2026, publish those internal ranges, even if you're not legally required to yet, and then run a compression audit. Do a compensation data study with me. And here's what I would say. I'm not just doing compensation data studies for people anymore. I used to just do a one-time project. And I'd charge for it, of course, but I would do a one-time project and then I'd hope you'd apply it. And now you have to work with me for a minimum of 3 months for us to make this happen. And it's not because I'm trying to keep you on my books, because I have a waiting list. It's not like that. It's just what I've learned is after I've gotten in, I don't want to let you go. You don't know what to do with the data a lot of times. You don't know how to then apply it, how to rectify it, how to project in your budget for next year, how to make a 3-year plan on how to level set, how to have hard conversations if you've got somebody who's overpaid and you need to level set them, how to project raise budgets. Like, I can give you this data all day long, but I want it to change your business in a positive way. So we're going to do a minimum of a 3-month obligation. I really prefer to do 6, but you can argue with me. Hopefully, if you listen to my podcast, you're like, I know this woman knows what she's talking about and I need it. It should be relevant, relevant. Wow, that is, how about evident? It should be evident to you. It's not that I'm trying to sell you something. It's, I want you to understand the importance of this inside of your business. I really want you to understand it, because you're not going to change your business if you don't go all the way in. Go all the way in and stay there. And then, okay, real quick, let me finish up with these trends. I also said that we were going to see some VR or AR when it came to training. It's closer than what people think, is what I said. I didn't say everyone's going to use it, but I said it's closer than what you think. We're going to be seeing virtual reality or artificial intelligence when it comes to our training. What 2025 showed, still not universal, but it's credible. I see some credible evidence, and pilots are existing, especially for soft skills and safety training. I was working with a company that sells John Deere the other day, and they are using it in job fairs. So you can have simulations. So I see it coming. PricewaterhouseCoopers put out that it is coming. It's only half right, though. I'd say for 2025, it was only half right. It's real, but it's niche outside certain industries. The 2026 implication, I would say immersive, often shows up as simulation, like I mentioned, simulating inside of like a job fair or role play or AI practice environments. It's not just headsets. So here's one practical move if you want to go in this direction. Pilot one use case, like maybe around manager conversations or maybe around safety, and measure time to competency on it to see if it's something that your workplace really wants to use. The 10th thing that I mentioned was culture strengthening. Here's what I said. Culture must be intentional. Our values, what we celebrate, alignment inside of roles. And here's what 2025 showed. Culture became inseparable from trust, retention, and change fatigue, especially under policy whiplash around artificial intelligence, around return to work, around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So I saw broad HR benchmarks and experience signals from McKinsey and company around these. And so, yes, I would say the score on this was, it was a correct estimation. And here's what I'm seeing even more. I've talked about this on a few recent episodes. I had a client come to me, or it was a potential client at the time. They had seen me speak. A CEO saw me speak on the speed of trust. And I was speaking to individuals. I was actually speaking to women about self-trust, the art of self-trust, and how important that was. And the CEO came up to me and he said, I like the way you talk. We're going through a lot of change management. I think it would be helpful if you would come in and speak to my leadership group. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I had a call with the CHRO and I was like, tell me what's going on, because here's the deal. I can come in and I can talk on change management all day long. Actually, I've researched a ton of methods. I've seen it in organizations with 40 people. I've seen it in organizations with 20,000 people. I understand the process and their reasons behind change management. And I've studied a lot of different styles of change management from a textbook perspective, so I could apply those. But here's what I said. Do you have trust in your organization? If you make one more change, are people starting to get to where they wonder, like, is this all financially driven? Do they care about us? Like, do they understand what this means to us? Will people question leaders? What will it look like? And so when I started asking those questions, they're like, yeah, we have those issues. So here's what I said. I can talk on trust and I would be fine to talk on trust, but I would be fine to talk on change management. But here's what I think I need to talk on trust. And so they were like, yeah, I guess so, if that's what you want to talk about. So they opened the day up with me talking about trust, and I got a ridiculous amount of feedback. So culture is becoming inseparable from having trust in your organization, what retention looks like in your organization, change fatigue in your organization. You can't separate those two. You can't just talk about retention data without talking about, do people trust each other and do people trust leadership? You can't talk about change fatigue on whatever process, AI, RTO, whatever it is, without talking about trust in your organization. So here's the 2026 implication. Culture is your operating system. This is how decisions get made under pressure. So I'd recommend that you define 3 culture behaviors that leaders are evaluated on. Really, everyone should be evaluated on that, not just values posters. We really need to have behaviors in our culture. And if you need help getting to those, I'm happy to help you. Or I've got another girlfriend that talks about culture all the time that I'd be happy to set you up with as well. But this is something that you're going to have to pay attention to. So that's how I fared in 2025. I think I did pretty decent. I've been seeing this for a long time now, but a couple of them were trendier and maybe didn't pop off the way that I thought they would. But I think I was moving us in the right direction. So what's next? 2025 wasn't random. It was a setup year in a lot of ways. So I want to talk about 2026 trend forecasts and really get into it here. Like, we're 20 minutes into the episode. We talked about what we learned and kind of what you can apply. Go a little bit deeper. I still think we're going to see one of the top trends is going to be still around AI, but I think we're going to jump into responsible AI. We have to, actually. If people don't go into responsible AI, this is going to be a problem. So specifically in HR, this needs to be around your governance, around validation, around audit trails. So I want you all to talk in your organizations about adoption. How do we adopt it? How do we utilize it? And then defensibility. So if we're utilizing it, would we be willing to share it? And how are we utilizing it? And how are we making sure the inputs are credible? And how are we prompting to make sure that we're getting the right data? And then what are the checks and balances against it? Because we can't just blindly take what AI is telling us. So how do we adopt it? How are we defensible against it? And then the trust around it. So especially, let's say, when it comes to selection and performance decisions, how are we making sure that we're utilizing this in a correct way? How are we going to use it? How are we making sure that it's defensible? And then how can we trust the data that comes from it? This is really important. And I would say in your teams, you need to do an AI risk register and human review gates inside of it. Like, how are we going to open and shut the flow of AI with intentionality? And then how are we monitoring that? So that's still maybe not my number one, but I still think responsible AI around governance, validation, and audit trails is going to be big. Number two, skills first talent strategy is going to become the backbone. I really think skills data drives hiring, internal mobility, and workforce planning based off of what I've seen more than anything else, not just job titles and destiny or your education. Really, skills data is driving hiring and internal mobility and workforce planning. So skills taxonomy for priority roles is going to be really important. Priority roles, exactly what skills do you need? And then internal marketplace light, like who internally could fill these roles? And then what's the gap? And then how do we close the gap to get them to where we're filling it? That's going to be really, really important. Skills first talent strategy, the backbone of your organization if it isn't already. I'd say most places aren't, but it really needs to be. I'm still talking about pay transparency. I'm still talking about it because for those of you who didn't listen to my other episode, my number 3 trend is still around pay transparency, and that is because of this. I'm not just saying you have to tell everyone what the pay bands are. That's not it. I'm saying I want you to get really, really intentional with how you pay your people. Really intentional. Compensation data studies are a must. We need to take a look at pay equity. We need to understand when they were hired, how long they've been in the role, what skills, certifications, education, so on and so forth they have, the tenure around that, and then our philosophy. Do we pay at the 10th percentile, the 25th percentile? Do we pay median, 75th, 90th? What is our philosophy? And let's get down to it. Compliance is the floor now. We need, of course, we're making sure we're classifying people correctly, all of that. Consistency and compression fixes are the real work here. So we need salary bands, promotion pay rules, and manager scripts when it comes to this kind of stuff, and put some math to your performance reviews, people. They cannot just be so dang subjective. We're just liking people who we like. No, we're not doing that anymore. So pay transparency is going to expand into pay architecture. We're going to get more serious about it. We have to. The data exists. We need to use it. Okay, DEI, I don't really want to beat a dead horse here. This is still going to be something that's on the table, but so much less. It's going to go into more inclusive systems and legal resilience, more scrutiny, more need for clean, measurable job-related practices, standardization around selection, document criteria, training our interviewers, things like that. DEI is not going to be diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging anymore. These are inclusive systems, have nothing to do with race, religion, what have you. It's literally legal resilience inside of an organization. That's where we're going to see. And if you don't like that, I get it. But the current administration, this always swings with administration. The current administration is more employer friendly, I would say, in a lot of ways when it comes to ruling. We want good, clean laws. We want accurate policies, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying they don't care about employees, because they do. I see some shifts in some different areas, but I would also say as long as everything's buttoned up, we're not going to see these standalone programs that are just around fluff on how people feel. That's just going away. It has been going away. It's going away. So DEI, I'm not saying it's a big trend. I'm saying this is an inclusive system, legal resilience for an organization. Accommodation fluency becomes a core HR competency. We've got a lot of accommodations going on out there. This is something common that HR is working with. So this is one of the trends that I'm saying for 2026. Accommodation fluency has got to become a core HR competency. Accommodations can be remote work, mental health, religion, neurodiversity, any of those things. It's not just your stereotypical disabilities that we're thinking about. We're thinking about flexibility and just doing life in a different way. We're going to see more requests and higher expectations for process maturity in 2026. So I would recommend that you give an interactive process playbook and manager training around this, because we're going to see more of it. Don't wait till it comes. Get proactive. If you need help with that, hit me up. That is something that you need to be working on for 2026. It's not going away. We can't just wait till people shut up about it, because that's not going to happen. Also, a few other things around learning and development that I would say, whether it's around manager effectiveness, that's a new retention strategy. Immersive practices around learning, sure, but not necessarily around VR or AI like I was talking about, but manager effectiveness. This distributed work succeeds or fails at the manager level. Okay, so when you're thinking about workloads, workflows, work distribution, this succeeds well or fails miserably at the manager level. If the managers don't know what they're doing, then the employees are going to suffer because of it. So you need to measure manager effectiveness. And you can do this by 360-degree reviews. That's what I would do. If I was going to come in and implement, I would probably do that first, or an employee satisfaction and engagement survey, and then drill it down by department, location, whatever, depending on how your organization's set up. But we need to measure manager effectiveness, because if your managers are effective, your people are going to stay. And that's the way that works. The data just shows it. The data just shows it. Not to mention, if your managers aren't solid, who's driving? Like literally, who's steering the ship? So when it comes to learning and development, I want to see manager effectiveness being at the top of the list for 2026. Distributed work is going to succeed or fail because of it, and how teams are balanced. And then lastly, this one's kind of a soft HR thing, so I could probably drop off here, but people analytics are going to shift from reporting to decision making when it comes to operations. HR analytics should help you predict risk, forecast capacity, prove return on investment on hiring for different positions. It's not up to the departments. HR has the data. They should be doing a quarterly people review meeting like finance does. Call your HR people into it. You're paying those folks. Have them work on it. Like, they need to absolutely be taking a look at the HR data and helping you drive, helping you steer with it. And if they're not a really great HR person. So either train them to do it, have them work with somebody like me. We can put them in my HR in a Box program. And in 12 months, they will be a miniature version of me, just probably younger or newer, whatever, to the field. But they need to get that mentorship, and then they need to help you steer the ship in your organization. Wisdom looks like measuring outcomes, not just making statements. And so I've been able to show you 2025 what I thought was going to happen. Here's 2026 what I think is going to happen. But I want to measure those outcomes. I don't want to just make statements. I'm basing it off of what I've seen before, the trends that I've seen, and what I see coming. Salt and Light. The reason why I named my consulting firm Salt and Light is because salt is wisdom, knowledge, experience. It's the truth. But then light is the hope, the encouragement, the path forward. I want to tell the truth with data, and then I want to build a path forward with you. So here's what I would do. Your first 30 days into 2026, your HR plan, here's what I would do. Just a 4-step planning sprint that I would do in your organization. First, I would listen. I would do a pulse survey. You don't have to do something ginormous with this. I mean, I would personally work with me and my firm on it, and we could do it for you, and it could be bigger. I can do it in a month. I just did it for a client last month and they loved it. Literally beginning to end engagement survey, but you can do a pulse survey if you don't want to do all that. What's breaking? Where are the obstacles? Where are the barriers? What's breaking in our organization? What's working? And what do people want next? It can be fairly simple, or we can be doing it a little bit more complex. My way is not overly complex, but that's what I would do. The 4-step planning sprint, your first 30 days, I would listen first and foremost. I would simplify by picking 3 priorities max for your HR people function or your business at all. What are we doing this? What are the 3 things that would mean success for our year? The third thing, I would systematize. I would make sure you've got policies around these things, processes around these things, and manager enablement. Do managers understand what we're doing and why? Can they argue it? Can they hold people accountable to it? And then fourth, I want to prove it. You've got baseline metrics now after your month of doing this. Now review them quarterly, and boom, that's your planning sprint for your HR plan for your first 30 days. I want you to know the receipts matter. They matter to me. When I say something, it matters to me. Am I right or am I wrong? And I'm not trying to just be right or wrong for the sake of it. I'm trying to show there are people who get it, who think about this. I was just on a call with a client today and he was like, I'm sorry to say this to you, but I effing hate the HR stuff. And we're finalizing his handbook and it's complex and he's in like 40 different locations with different styles of businesses and it's tough. And I'm asking questions that are annoying. I get it. Like, here's an annoying question that I would ask around, like, how do you have your paid time off set up in your system? Is it one lump sum that drops in, or is it accrual based, meaning a little bit drops in every pay period? And if you tell me it's one lump sum, I'm going to ask you why. For ease, because an HR payroll system can do that for you and calculate. It's very simple. So if you're saying like you want to do it the simple way, it's actually very simple to do accrual based and it's just math and the system literally does the math for your HR payroll person. So let's set it up correctly so you don't have people blowing through their PTO bank at the beginning of the year and then asking for more and the managers feel bad and then they're granting exceptions when they shouldn't. We can't measure them to their reliability, or they take unpaid time and they're frustrated because now they've got extra stress in their life. Like, let's help them plan by putting some parameters in place. And you know what? I get it. Most people don't want to talk about this, but it has to be talked about so it can be set up correctly so then it will get easier. Do it right. Do it light. Do it wrong. Do it long. If you don't take the time to set it up, you're going to be arguing about this forever. And you're going to be like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Set up a dang policy. Be clear with your people of what to expect. And then you can deal with the complaining for just a little bit while you clean it up. And then it's over. The clarity is there. The clarity is there. I would say, send me your biggest HR. I don't know what to do with this for 2026. Send it to me. Send it to me and let's work together. You've got something sitting in the back of your mind, whether it's around AI or pay or hybrid accommodations or performance management or your hiring process or HR payroll technology or your employee benefits. You've got something that you're not working on in your business right now. Send me your biggest HR pain in the butt and let's work on it together. So I'm going to get into my 2026 planning process. It's going to come up soon, but that's what I've got. Those are my trends. I predicted 2025 HR trends. Was I right? I think I was pretty right. I'm telling you what I think is hot for 2026. And then I'm giving you clarity. Bring it to me. You've got some issues. Bring it to me. We will work through it together. It will actually be fun. And here's why. It's going to be a pain in the butt at first, but you're going to be working with a person who actually knows what they're doing. And so it becomes fun because you're like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to think about this alone anymore. And then your people have clarity and you start to see, honestly, this is going to give you confidence because you're going to start to see, oh, when I clarify things for my people, I get a little bit of grumbling, but overall, people actually like the clarity. Let's do it in more areas. I'm telling you, it's going to build your confidence muscle. Whether you're an HR person or a leader or someone who's just like, what should businesses be doing in general? Thank you for tuning in today. If there's something that I can do to help you, please let me know. Please share this episode with other people in your organization so you can get on the same page and then schedule a meeting to tackle it. And if you get to that meeting and you're like, we just don't know what to do, shoot me a message, send an email to hi@saltandlightadvisors.com, shoot me a message, and I would be happy to help. I know that predicting what's coming is chaotic, but when you see the trends and you see where things are going and you understand people, the work is worth it. So don't waste the chaos, embrace it. Until next time.